Never mind. This is Nicholas Bremer. Um, I'm a little behind in this vet school review stuff that I'm going to do on this channel. I wonder if I can change the orientation. Orientation is locked, it says. Whatever. Okay, that'll be alright for now. So I'm going to start with what I learned Monday. Which was the 18th, yeah. So I need to change that on the live anyway. Okay, so my first class was Physiology and Histology 1. I am not going to share, I don't know, there's certain things I can't share that are like copyright protected. So I don't know if I break any copyright laws, just I'm sorry, and I don't know, arrest me, I guess. Now anyway, Physio and Histology 1. So in this class, the exams were not, apparently they're not going to be cumulative, but the information is going to be cumulative, just like pretty much everything in life, you know. It builds upon, how do I get this stuff off the screen? Okay, there we go. It builds upon itself. Like, you can't really do calculus without knowing multiplication and addition and all that. Anyway. So physiology. Hey, Brawl Max. Doctor what? Well, I'm not a doctor yet. Anyway. So, anyway, I'm just reviewing for vet school, basically. I'm doing okay. How about you? I gotta try and focus here if I respond. No, I'm not a PhD. I'm going to be a DVM, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. I'm in vet school right now. This is my first semester. Anyway, I've got to get focused here. I'm sorry, or else this will take so long. So it's about 4:30 where I am. I'm in the United States. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, I need to focus. I keep saying that, but okay. Physiology, what physiology is it's the normal function for an animal. All the future classes in my upcoming semesters, not this semester, but the upcoming ones, will be focused on abnormal function of an animal. And what physiology is the study of function. Physio means function, and ology is study of. And let's see. Sorry about that. I'm in my apartment with my brother right now. Okay, I'm just looking. Most of this was just syllabus stuff. Yeah, physiology is the study of function. And sorry. You have 2 cats. That's cool. If I were a doctor, I almost am. Well, 4 years until, but I mean, I don't know. That's cool. I like cats. Cats are my favorite animal. Anatomy, histology is the study of form/structure. So that's another class I'm taking this semester, anatomy. And this class I'm talking about right now is physiology and histology 1. So anyway, form and function are what I'm learning in this class. Thank you. Thank you for the well wishes. I appreciate that. And mostly function. Mostly it's focusing on function in this class. And so it's mainly a study of how things move, like how articulation happens. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry, I'm trying to focus here, but I keep reading all these comments. Physiology. Like, okay, what we have learned so far, epithelial cells, bone cells, skin cells. I'm going to get more into that, but I gotta go down this list to review all this. So things in a dog are not equal to things in a cat. There's a lot of, so there's something called the supracondylar foramen. There's also the supratrochlear foramen. That must be my dad or something. But the purpose of this live stream, Dad, is to kind of recite to myself all the stuff I'm learning, while maybe I can go back and watch the video in the future. So if I need to review it, it's not going to be too useful so far. So far I've just been kind of blabbing. But anyway. So the point of this class is to understand how things are supposed to work and what it's like when they don't work, or mainly just to know what is normal physiology. Normal, I mean, if you've got a broken leg, that's not normal because it's broken. And then we got to know enough about it to know how to fix it when it's not working. In this class, I think one of the professors said, not going to talk much about stuff that's not used in clinical practice, because what's the point, Not much point if it's not used anymore. It's either obsolete or something else. Holy cow, I've got 59 pages and I'm still on the first one. I just gotta zoom through these. Okay, there's pressures and forces, there's stresses and strains, there's flows, there's chemical concentrations, there's osmotic and oncotic force, and then Ohm's law. So pressures and forces, that's like the force of gravity, there's something acting, or it's like the force of my muscle extending and flexing. It's moving the arm. And then stresses and strains, if my arm's like this and you were to push down, that is stress. Or me standing on my legs is stress. Not all stress is bad, but when it's strain, that's when it can be bad, because that's when you can get hurt. Like a tendon, there's a certain range that you can extend your arm and it doesn't hurt. There's a certain range you go past that and it starts to kind of hurt. That's maybe strain at that point, but it's stressed all the while. Now strain, if you strain it too much, it can break, which isn't good. Ohm's law, I didn't seem to write down anything about that. I'm going to have to, let me research that, or let me put that on my list of things to research. Okay, and then chemical concentrations. There's a lot of talk about electrical stuff in this class because lots to do with our physiology. You know, we've got our brain and our central nervous system. You've got electricity in you right now. Not much, just enough to where your neurons fire and they send an electrical signal for you to raise your hand or for you to slap the desk or for you to do whatever, clap your hands. I don't know, it's so weird thinking about it and then talking about thinking about it. If that makes any sense, I don't know. But yeah, the brain waves are like, or I don't know what they're called. The electricity in your brain. You guys are crazy. Yeah, the electricity is enough to send a signal to your arm to make it move or whatever. I don't know. So pressure, okay, here I'm talking more in depth. Pressure or force. Pressures and forces are energies that move or deform, or both, something. Like if you were to put pressure on my forehead, if I had, I don't know, what's that disease that causes edema? Really bad type 2 diabetes, I guess. I don't know. But like if you were to put pressure on my forehead and then remove it, you'd see an indentation. That's deformity, you know? Or if you were to, I don't know, fall out of a tree and land on your leg wrong, break your leg, that's a deformity. But pressure can also just move something, or forces can just move something. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're always deforming it. There's many units and many forms of pressure. There's blood pressure. That's one of the, I mean, there's thousands probably, but blood pressure is one in this context, which is measured in millimeters of mercury, which is, it was explained in class why, I forgot. I don't think I need to know that though, at least I hope not. Also torr, T-O-R-R, I remember that from chemistry class. I can't remember what that means, but I'm pretty sure it's equivalent to millimeters of mercury. Then there's air pressure, that's another thing. That's measured in PSI, or centimeters of water. That's the first time I learned about that. I never even knew that was a unit. Mechanical pressure is another one, which is measured in newtons or kilograms. And then there's molecular or chemical pressures. These are things like osmotic gradients or concentrations. You know, if you eat too much salt, your hand gets all puffy. I remember one time I ate a bunch of olives. I think it was like Thanksgiving. And I ate like the whole tray of olives. And that was a lot of salt. And that was before I started like carnivore diet. So I think maybe I needed the salt, or maybe I need the salt now, but I mean, I don't know, I never really used to think about it, but I can eat a lot of salt now. Anyway, back in the day when I did that, like, holy cow, my fingers felt really swollen. So that has to do with concentration because I don't know, there's a word that I'm blanking on. Anyway, yeah, body weight is a force against your feet. there's a force, yeah, so there's a force that drives salt concentration to equally distribute in a solution. Like if you were to have a tube, a U-shaped tube, and put a selectively permeable membrane in the middle of the two tubes, where you have water able to pass through and salt not able. Which unit is what? I don't know what you're asking there. Then, if you were to pour, okay, you had water on both sides. You pour salt into one side. I don't know, say the water just goes all to that other side. So then this water level's up here and this one's down here. That's how that could work. Now we're talking about chemical concentrations. So our body is made of solutes, right? And which unit am I teaching? Oh, you're not talking about like measurements. I'm talking about physiology and histology right now. Or I'm not really, not, I mean, I guess I'm teaching it, but more I'm just like trying to study by reciting it, if that makes sense. Apparently, okay, so I heard a long time ago that the best way to understand something is by teaching it. Like if you can teach something, you've probably got a high understanding. You texted me on Instagram. I don't know. I haven't checked Instagram in a long time. I'm sorry I missed your text. But anyway. So yeah, we're basically majority water, and then there's all this other stuff that's dissolved in the water. I don't think I need to know that. Well, I probably do, but whatever. So high concentrations exert force on low concentrations. Things flow from high to low. Okay, now talking about osmotic or oncotic forces. Uh, I think this is whenever you have like a high concentration that can't move. This is where inflammation and stuff happens, or this is why. This is like you might have a swollen joint or swollen body, like just general inflammation. Say I jam my finger in the door. Who knows what kind of damage I caused? I mean, if I did that, it could cause internal hemorrhage, which is like internal bleeding. And so there's all these things that have to flow to that area to heal it. I don't know. I don't know why it swells. Because I feel like, well, I mean, that's probably why. It's that high concentration of all those healing factors. It's got to be it. They're just concentrating in that area, and then that causes the swelling because that high concentration stays there. It's not moving away. And so that's why the inflammation is probably caused. Now, stress and strain. Stress is the amount of force applied, and strain is deformation resulting from the force applied. That deformation or deformation, I don't know how you say that, probably deformation, can take many forms. So, like a tendon, like I was talking about, it can break, you know. But there's a certain point that it has to pass before it breaks. Like it can stretch and then stiffen before it breaks, and it can, I think, get strengthened in that process, but it doesn't heal very easily, which I'll probably talk about later. Different tissues are different. no surprise there. Different properties. For example, bone doesn't deform easily, but lung tissue, if you have lung tissue that doesn't deform easily, then you've probably got a big problem, because you've got to be able to have lungs that fill with air and empty air. And what is that doing whenever you're doing that? Your diaphragm is pushing on your lungs to empty them and then pulling. And so your lungs are very deformable. Now, flow is usually expressed in rates. So, like flow of blood out of the heart, or flow of air into the lungs, or flow of urine out of a dog, or flow of glucose into the liver after a meal, after eating. And it can vary. What causes that flow and the consequences of that. Yeah. Ohm's law. This is a lot to do with physics, electrical physics. But, I mean, again, our brain, very electrical organ. Neurons, So V equals IR, that's Ohm's law. Volts equals current times resistance. Again, this was originally used to describe electricity, but basically this approximates all movement in the physical universe. All movement follows this pattern. What's next? It's just important to know what forces are in play, what is moving, and then what is resisting that movement. For example, you can hold a AA battery in your hand, touch both ends of it, and you don't get hurt because there's a high resistance and it's low voltage. Now, if you were to put a fork in an electrical socket, it's not a good idea, because much higher voltage, around 120 volts, I think, right? Something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, you feel pain because it's a higher voltage and a lower resistance, I think. Standing in water would make it worse too, because that lowers resistance. Now, there may be a couple reasons you'd want to increase blood flow as a doctor. Say your patient has clogged arteries and they've got high blood pressure because of that. So I guess you don't want to decrease blood flow. I feel like that's something that a lot of doctors get wrong, because doing that's like if you want to lose weight, you starve yourself. It's just not. It's missing. I don't know. It's. I mean, yeah, it would work, but it's not what you want to do, if that makes sense. So, but to increase blood flow, you've either got to decrease the resistance, which in the case of a clogged artery, you need to get rid of that plaque or something, because otherwise the artery is just fine. I mean, we're not born defunct. We're born working. We're not born crippled. But in the case of a heart and arteries, you've either got to decrease the resistance or increase the force, or both. So the heart might start pumping faster. Or if you're working out, the heart's going to pump faster. And that's not necessarily a result of bad health. That's just a result of your muscles are being used vigorously, and so you need oxygen. So you need more blood to deliver that oxygen to your muscles. But your body naturally adjusts flows by changing certain forces or resistances. And apparently, if you know at least two of the variables, pressure, force, or resistance, if you know at least two of those, you can estimate the third. And in practice, veterinarians apparently try to, or what they do is they apparently measure one and try to guess which of the other two changed. I thought that was interesting. Okay, that is it for the first day of physiology. That was a lot, and it's almost been 30 minutes. Holy cow. Okay. Immunology. You keep spamming in my comments section, huh? Okay. Anyway, next was immunology. So the first goal of this class is to what? I think it's to describe. I must have forgot that word. Describe different aspects of the basic immune responses. And the second was to describe specific aspects like mucosal immunity, immunity to pathogens, hypersensitivity reactions, vaccinations, immunodeficiency, and autoimmunity. Okay, and then there's all the course content. Yeah. Cumulative final exam. Okay. An exam? No, not soon. But my first exam's on the 8th of September. That's a Monday. And then I have an exam on Friday of that week. If I had the rest of my schedule, I could share the rest. But anyway, an antigen is an antigen is something that causes an immune response. An antibody is something that the body makes. Okay, so antibodies are like the body's response to antigens. You've got two types of immunity. There's adaptive and innate. Yeah, I'm gonna pass, or at least I'm gonna try to. Okay, and then we have B cells, which are part of adaptive immunity, and I have written down here that B cells are memory cells, but I don't know if that's true. I feel like it's not. I'm just going to look that up real quick. Yes. Oh. Okay, so it's more of a maybe. There's B cells and then there's memory B cells. Okay. You graduated from your undergraduate last year. That's good. What was your undergraduate? Back to immunology. Bachelor of Science in Food Technology and Quality Assurance. Okay. That's really cool. I think I've heard about the food technology, but I didn't know about the quality assurance. That's interesting. That's a very cool sounding major. Okay, T cells, part of adaptive immunity. Multi-purpose. These cells do a lot of things. And actually, I'm in professional school right now. Right now, this is well, this is immunology, but that I'm going over now. But it's for vet school, which is veterinary medicine, like for dogs and cats and stuff like that. Animals, cows, horses, like an animal doctor, basically. So it's a doctorate, but it's not like, I don't know if I think it technically is grad school, but um, I don't know. It's a program. It's a little different than other grad schools in some ways that I'm pretty sure I was told, but I forgot. No, this is well, so I finished my undergraduate education in May of this year. So I was in undergrad for 3 years, and now I'm in vet school. Yeah. Anyway, one of the reasons why HIV is so powerful, or FIV, is because it destroys T cells. These T cells, they do all sorts of things that I don't know in specific from just looking at this page right here. Well, I did get a job. I've had a couple jobs over here, but yeah, right now when I'm in vet school, I don't think I'm have enough time for a job, so I'm just um, basically just devoting all my time to studying, all my school time, or all the free time I have. I'm just trying to study. When someone does not, or when an animal doesn't have T cells, apparently they're unable to respond to a lot of pathogens. Okay, so there's something called the major histocompatibility complex. Basically, and it's also known as the MHC. Basically, T cells, the T cells don't recognize pathogens that haven't been processed by this complex yet. So, anyway, moving on. It's been said before, what does not kill you makes you stronger. That is especially true in the study of immunology. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to stay close to God. That's my first priority, for sure. I've got to put God over school. I've got to put God over family. I've got to put God over friends. And, relationships with anybody. Studies. Yeah. That's good advice. Thank you. Anyway. So, an example of something that caused a lot of problems in the past was smallpox. Very grievous disease. Affected humans for long time in human history. What it would cause was fever, rash, pus-filled sores, and high mortality. So it was pretty gross and deadly. It's a virus, caused, and it's the variola virus. Um, so, well, I mean, I don't know you in real life, so it's kind of weird to communicate over um, WhatsApp. I don't know. Um, I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that question. But there was something called variolation and inoculation. So variolation, they would literally take the virus and they would put it on a spot on a human. And, well, I respect that, but still, I mean, I don't know you, so, this is a public platform, so, I mean, I don't know. I can talk to you through comments, though. I'll be doing this pretty much every day. So, variolation, it's the same as immunization or inoculation or vaccination, which I'm going to talk about those. But they would take part of the virus, or no, they would just take the virus and put it either in your skin, I think, kind of like a vaccine, or they would put it on the skin. I can't remember. So, and they just take like lesion scabs where a person affected by smallpox, they would scrape off the scabs and put them on the skin or whatever. There was another thing called nasal insufflation, which is the same thing, but they'd stick like a rod up your nose and then put the scabs in your nose, I think, which is kind of gross. They would only select individuals with not so grievous disease to do this from. Like if someone was greatly sick with smallpox, they probably wouldn't choose them, whereas they would choose someone who was fighting it off well, I guess. I don't know. Something like that. And then there was a point where inoculation was compulsory, like for the American troops commanded by General George Washington. Yeah, you might be my only crowd right now, but after this live stream's over, it'll be posted to my channel. So, anyway. But then there was a guy named Edward Jenner who he figured out, hey, look, there's these people milking these cows, and they're not getting affected nearly as much by smallpox. And that's because guess what? They were being exposed to cowpox. They'd get small reactions on their hands, but not really too bad. And they'd be free from smallpox or greatly decreased symptoms. And so Edward Jenner, he was like, hey, what if I take some pus from cowpox and use it on a patient? And guess what? It worked. And that's where the term vaccination comes from. Vacca is Latin for cow. Maybe it's vaxa, I don't know. It's VACCA. And then you put that in the word vaccination. I don't know. That's where that came from. But there's been anti-vaxxers since the beginning, Um, People thought, oh, if I take this vaccine, I'm going to turn into a cow. It's not true, of course. And Pasteur used this same concept that Edward Jenner used to develop the rabies vaccine. Okay, that is all for immunology for the 18th. Now, yes, anatomy. Where is that? There it is. Okay. So something to know about anatomy. Uses a lot of Latin and Greek terminology. Very important because, that's what they were originally using when they were naming these things. You got to remember, physicians, doctors, that was around the time that science started exploding, was during times that people spoke Latin and Greek. And so that's why everything in medical terminology is Latin or Greek. You've got directional terms, anatomical planes. Okay, so we've got, for example, and here's another thing to keep in mind. Human and animal terminology is not always the same. For example, in the human, this is superior, and so up towards the top of your body is superior, down towards the bottom is inferior. But in an animal, and this kind of applies to humans too, but in animals, it's cranial and caudal. In a human, anterior is towards the front of a body, and posterior is towards the back. You can probably get away with using that for an animal, but I'm pretty sure the preferred term is ventral, which is like the belly side, the vent, you've got your belly button, and then dorsal, which is the back. So think about a shark, dorsal fin, Okay, and then we've got a median plane. There's only one median plane, but there's multiple sagittal planes. And then there's transverse plane, which separates. Okay, so say you've got a cat long ways. Here's the head, here's the tail. Transverse is separating it like that. Median plane is like separating the cat down the middle, if that makes sense. Sorry. And then there's another one. It's called the dorsal plane, separating the animal this way. Which is parallel to the back. Okay, then we've got medial and lateral. So medial is, okay, so look at my arm, right? Medial is like this would be, okay, how do I say this? So, like, if, I might be able to show it better. So, say I'm standing like this. This is the medial aspect of my arm. This is the lateral aspect. Why? Because this is closer to the median, and that's further away. cranial and caudal, again, that's toward the head, cranial, and toward the tail, caudal. Think about cranium. You might have heard that before. The cranium is your brain or your head. Okay, and then there's rostral and caudal. This is only if you're on the head already, because you can't really say it's cranial when you're talking about something on the head, if that makes sense, because you're already on the head. So you've got to say, okay, and you got to keep in mind also that animals, especially cats and dogs, their necks are like this, whereas we are bipedal. Our heads are facing forward. Theirs are facing that way because they've got four limbs. You know, they're what's the word? I don't know. I can't remember the word, but it means four limbs, and you walk on four limbs. Okay. Yep. Anterior, posterior, ventral, dorsal, median. Wait, I already talked about a lot of that. Okay. Proximal and distal. Proximal is toward the main mass, which is like your torso, and distal is away from the main mass. So if my hand is over here, my hand is distal to my forearm, and my forearm is proximal to my hand. That's what it is. So on a cat, the cat's neck would be rostral to its nose, I think. Or wait, no, the nose is rostral to the neck. Because, I mean, the nose, you can't get any more rostral than the nose. That's literally the descriptor for the nose. Okay, and then we've got palmar and plantar. Palmar and plantar. Again, that's only when you're talking about like only this portion. Otherwise, you're kind of talking about cranial and caudal again. Extending and flexing. So if I flex my arm versus if I extend it, you know, flex, extend, flex, extend. Flexion and extension, they're not always acute angles, and so you just got to know which ones are, or I don't know, you've got to know, you can estimate, you can predict how a limb will move based on the flexor angle. Okay, and then there's abduction and adduction. Abduction is moving the limb away from your midline. So this is abduction. And then adduction is moving like that. Probably you've heard of hip adductors and abductors at the gym. Or, it's a type of exercise. Okay, then there's supination and pronation. If I were to take my hand, this is supination, this is pronation. So this is supinated, this is pronated. Yeah. All right, and that's all for anatomy. Hey, Gabe. Good to see ya. Or I guess not see ya, but read ya, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm done for well, actually, I think that's everything for, yeah, Yeah, that's everything for Monday. Now I've got 4 more to go. I really got to do this daily instead of weekly. It's already been 50 minutes. Crazy. Okay, anyway. Well, I guess I'll talk about what I did in anatomy lab. So we had these dogs. We dissected, or we started dissection of our dog, and they were cadavers. It's not like we were doing surgery, but we were using some surgical tools like scalpel, thumb forceps, butterfly scissors, I think is what they're called. I think. And then needle drivers. We didn't really use the needles in the dissection. Well, we have not yet. We're still dissecting, but and then I think there was a fifth one, unless I already said five. Oh yeah, there's a probe, a dissection probe, and we used that as well. I probably should have just left it. Now I have to. There we go. That's not too bad. Okay, and yeah, the first thing we did on the first day, we um we I've got to think of the word. I'm trying to like actually use medical words now. What is skin in Latin? Cutis. So we did a cutectomy, I guess. Cutectomy. No, that's not a word. Okay. We cut the skin from the dog's neck down to its umbilicus, which is like the belly button, and then we cut it down there to the spine. The dog was laying on its right side, So it was like this, and then this would be my right side, but to you guys it looks like my left. And yeah, we took the scalpel. It was kind of hard to get through, you know. I mean, it's different. I was talking to some of my classmates. They were talking about, or I was just curious because I've seen it in certain media before that you can like peel a rabbit's skin just by one lick or one fluid motion. You know, you could just peel its skin off. You don't need any tools or anything. You can't. It's a little harder to do that for a dog, especially, and it could just be the formaldehyde or the whatever substance the dog had been sitting in for however long it had been sitting in it. But no, we had some trouble getting that skin off, and so we did eventually. We peeled it down, and yeah, it was good. I need to get out my guides here. Okay, so the first muscle we identified was the cutaneous trunci muscle. I couldn't tell you where it is. I am, well, it probably says here. On the cadaver or on the skin. I think actually it's like, it's almost some skin that, or no, it's not skin. It's some muscle. You know how some animals, if you touch them, they'll like shake, kind of. They'll twitch that area. It's there's muscle like that in cows especially, and horses, large animals. They've got a specific muscle just for shaking bugs off, or not shaking them off, but like making it so the bugs have to fly away, if that makes sense. They just kind of like flex the muscle for a bit, or like for half a second, and the bug will fly away. Okay, the brachiocephalicus muscle, that is a muscle that goes from, I don't know if humans have it, but anyway, it's like it kind of goes up to your neck, at least in a dog. I don't know if, again, I don't know if humans have it. No, I didn't take pictures because, well, I did, but I'm actually legally not allowed to show you guys these pictures. Apparently, that's what they told me, so I don't want to get in trouble. Goodness. There we go. Okay, and so brachio is like having to do with the arm. Cephalic has to do with the head. And so it's a muscle that went from arm to the head. The trapezius muscle, in humans, it's right here. In the dog, it's kind of in the same spot. It's weird. You'd have to see it to, I don't know. Again, this is more for me, I guess, for my reviewing purposes. If I had pictures, I'd show them. Or, I mean, if I were able to, I would. Okay, the rhomboideus. More back muscle. Very small, I think these are. They're like these middle back muscles, kind of. Hmm. Yeah, and I've got to know the function too, and the point of attachment. I forgot about that. Omotransversarius muscle. Yeah, superficial cervical lymph nodes. Yeah, under the omotransversarius muscle. Superficial pectoral. Deep pectoral. Latissimus dorsi. Serratus ventralis. Oh, these are all extrinsic? Oh. Serratus ventralis. Or serratus ventralis. I don't know. Yeah, this part's more for me, I guess. I'm just kind of reciting. Sternocephalicus, sternohyoideus, and sternothyroideus muscle. Those are in the neck, I think. Okay, well that's it for Monday. Now on to Tuesday. Thanks for watching.